Hello children, I welcome you back to this portal of e-learning. I hope you are doing well. Today we are going to do a topic under literature section. That's a poem entitled as A Roadside Stand that has been penned down by Robert Frost. You can have a look at the slide. This is how a roadside stand looks like. Let us begin discussing about the poet first. Robert Frost was born in San Francisco on 26 March 1874. During his childhood, Frost was sickly and neurotic. His father died of tuberculosis when he was only 11 years old. Frost and his family therefore went to New England to have his father's remains to be buried there. They had to settle down at Salem in New Hampshire because they had no money to return back. His father, he left the family in utter poverty with only $18 to their account. Frost, he wrote poetry whenever he found time. In the year 1912, he made a crucial decision of his life. He chose poetry for his vocation, and he left for England with his wife and 4 children. Within a 6 months' time of his arrival in England, Frost decided to publish a collection of his earlier poems. His poetic career was studded with honors, such as membership in the American Academy and Pulitzer Prize. Frost died in January 1963. Frost is also known as the farmer poet. Let us look at the reasons. Frost, who was also well known as Jack of all trades, he went about his farming tasks. His poetic sensibilities surfaced, and he began to question the cold detachment of man from nature. As a farmer, he stands with the world and his phenomena to understand them. And then, later, as a poet, he withdraws himself to attain higher forms of understanding. Also, Frost has written a lot about the miserable condition of the people living in the countryside. The city people who drive through the countryside, they hardly pay any heed to the roadside stand or the people who run it. And that is how their plight he has penned down in the form of this poem, and entitled is A Roadside Stand. Let us discuss about the theme of the poem. The poem revolves around lot many social issues, lot many problems that people they faced in day-to-day life. One of the themes that prevails in the poem is the social discrimination or the social divide that you would see in the form of number 1, class division, wherein the city people they are rich and the rural folk they are poor. Also the region division, the rural area and the urban part. And with it comes the lifestyle division, wherein the rural folk they are of simplistic nature. At the other hand, the rich people they are materialistic. Also, the poem presents a hope for a better life. It also talks about, at the same time, the self-centeredness of man. Exploitation is another theme that revolves in the poem. Abuse of hope and hospitality. And it ends with the assertion of the right to lead a better life. We'll discuss about the style in which Frost has penned down this poem. It is written in a simple language as the words are picked from the common core. The narrative style has been adopted, so it seems as if a story has been told. The tone of the poet is conversational. The poem has been written in iambic pentameter. That means the rhythm persists in the lines in the entire piece. Repetitions have been employed for a better effect and to emphasize the ideas. The sentences used are short, crisp, and easy to understand. The countryside image, contrasting with wily behavior of outsiders that has been portrayed, has been painted very beautifully in the poem. We'll do a quick assessment of the poem. So as a poetic piece, the poem exposes, number one, the show of empathy that the city dwellers have for their rural fellow men. Also, the selfish motives of businessmen. The poem also shows the refreshing innocence of the rural folk, their faith that they have in humanity, and the hope that they nurse. In a nutshell, this poem is a telling comment on the civilized behavior of the rich people. Let us discuss the background of the poem. Before we go to the background, you need to understand what is a roadside stand. So it is an extended part or a shed that has been constructed in front of a house. So in front at the edge of the road stood a roadside stand, wherein the movement of the traffic continued without any break. But there are very few people who actually care to stop there. So certainly the person who has extended the roadside stand expected that people would come there and would buy something. And that is how some cash would flow onto their hands. So these roadside stands, they have been established to earn certain amount of money so that they can lead a better life. The poet, Robert Frost, he is a witness of the pathetic living condition of the poor in rural areas of America. The sight of the roadside stand and its owner's unattended prayer for help from their city brethren, also the apathy of the authority towards them, drew the attention of the poet. The poet wishes to say that the poor can progress only when the rich don't exploit them. Through this poetic piece, Frost requests the government and the rich to take responsibility to improve the condition of the poor people. In fact, if they are not going to help, they should not exploit them. So that is what the background of the poem is. Now let us begin with the poem. The opening stanza that says, "The little old house was out with a little new shed, in front at the edge of the road where the traffic sped. A roadside stand that too pathetically pled. It would not be fair to say for a dole of bread, but for some of the money, the cash whose flow supports the flower of cities from sinking and withering faint. The polished traffic passed with a mind ahead, or if ever aside a moment, then out of sorts." The first stanza, it's a description of a small shed on the roadside and the intention behind setting it there. A vegetable stand is built by a small-time farmer outside his house at the edge of the highway with a little hope. And what's that hope? That the cars frequently passing by would stop and buy some of his farm yields, and he would be able to earn money for his livelihood. But these city dwellers, they are actually the affluent people on whom the poor sellers or vendors depend for their earning. The poor farmer does not beg, though his condition is pathetic. Even in poverty, he wants to make a decent living by selling his farm produce. We move ahead with the lines at having the landscape marred with the artless paint of signs that the N turned wrong and the S turned wrong, offered for sale wild berries in wooden quarts, or crook-necked golden squash with silver warts, or beauty rest in a beautiful mountain scene. You have the money, but if you want to be mean, why keep your money? And then in parentheses given this crossly and go along. So, what these lines intend to say? The insensitivity of the rich class of people is seen when none of the cars stop or even bother to glance in the direction of the stand, without even a show of compassion or sympathy. They rather comment on the view that is being spoilt by the construction of the sheds, or the flaws and bad quality of paint in the direction boards. They feel these stands are a blemish. They are the spots on the rural beautiful landscape that they are passing through. These indifferent passers-by are absolutely nonchalant about the toil of the farmer, about the hard work, about the effort of the farmer, and the hardship he has to face in selling the produce. The cars speed away without even noticing the berries and squash displayed for sale in the stand, or even the beautiful mountain scene that lie in the backdrop. The hurt to the scenery wouldn't be my complaint, so much as the trusting sorrow of what is unsaid. Here far from the city we make our roadside stand and ask for some city money to feel in hand, to try if it will not make our being expand, and give us the life of the moving pictures promise that the party in power is said to be keeping from us. The farmer tells the rich traveller to hold on to his money if he wishes to be so mean, because he is not begging for the money, and also that it does not bother him so much when the picturesque view of the mountain is so casually neglected. But the farmer is pained at being ignored so blatantly. He only wanted little money in return to his goods, the natural goods, the goods to produce them he had worked hard day in and out, so that he too could afford to enjoy some of the luxuries often portrayed by movies and the media and have always been denied to him by the political parties or because of the financial conditions. The next stanza that reads, "It is in the news that all these pitiful kin are to be bought out and mercifully gathered in, to live in villages next to the theatre and the store, where they won't have to think for themselves anymore, while greedy good doers, you should remember this, greedy good doers, beneficent beasts of prey, swam over their lives enforcing benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits, and by teaching them how to sleep the sleep all day, destroy their sleeping at night the ancient way. These poor people have certain so-called benefactors who plan to relocate them in villages where they can enjoy the cinema or have easy access to stores. But these people are actually selfishly motivated and render help only if they see their own advantage in sight. Such seeming philanthropists wish to make these villagers completely dependent on them for all their benefits and comforts. The ignorant villagers do not realize that in the process they are being robbed of their ability to think for themselves or to be independent. These apparent good doers, they impress upon their minds of the impoverished village folk in such a way that they become unable to use their brain. They no longer get a good night's sleep because they have not worked during the day or because they are troubled by their new lifestyle. These ancient way of working during the day and sound sleep at night is completely reversed by this new way of seemingly comfortable life. We move ahead to the next stanza that says, sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear. So that is what is the brain thought of Frost, because he was quite upset seeing it with the harsh realities of life that these poor people they have been undergoing. Sometimes I feel myself I can hardly bear the thought of so much childish longing in vain, the sadness that lurks near the open window there, that waits all day in almost open prayer, for the squeal of brakes, the sound of a stopping car, of all the thousand selfish cars that pass, just one to inquire what a farmer's prices are, and one did stop, but only to plop grass, in using the yard to back and turn around, and another to ask the way to where it was bound, and another to ask could they sell it a gallon of gas? They couldn't, this crossly, they had none, didn't it see? At times, the poet Robert Frost finds it difficult to bear the vain weight and disappointment of the farmers as they are endlessly waiting for the sound of brakes near their stand. The open windows of the farmer's house seem to wait all day for the sound of the car to stop by and to make a purchase. But, unfortunately, the disappointment alone greets the expectant farmer as vehicles do not stop, but only to inquire all the stupid questions around. They inquire the price or for directions to the destination, to reverse the car on the grass, that is, at the farmer's yard, or otherwise asking for a gallon of gas. So, can't they see what actually they are selling? Are they so blind, or are they actually making fun of those people? No, in country money, the country scale of gain, the requisite lift of spirit has never been found. Or so the voice of the country seems to complain. I can't help owning the great relief it would be to put these people at one stroke out of their pain. And then next day, as I come back into the scene, I wonder how I should like you to come to me and offer to put me gently out of my pain. Progress of a nation or a place, it cannot be achieved without the primary requisite, that is money. And it is also undeniable that material gains of a section cannot uplift a nation when half of its population lives in poverty. According to the poet, the progress required has not been found by these country folk and their lifestyle that provides ample evidence to support this. Thus, therefore, the poet pleads the cause of these people, and he says he would be relieved if they are put out their misery at one stroke. He implies that death is much better than living in eternal misery. However, in a more rational frame of mind, he wonders how he would feel if someone offered to kill him in order to put him out of misery. So that is how the poem ends. We'll quickly revisit the poem. So the poem begins with Roadside Stand that has been extended further. It was a shed that has been constructed as a part of the house in order to look forward to uncertain money. But the traffic, it passed by always. The refined and rich people, they passed through the place with the intention of going ahead. No one stopped there. If any person cared to stop there, he would get irritated. He would find the landscape spoiled by the clumsy paint with which the building was painted. He would find even the signs like N and S turned wrongly. The roadside stand offered ordinary things of the daily use for sale. Wild berries, they are sold there in the wooden quads or units. Similarly, one could buy golden gods from the stand. The place also offered a peaceful stay in the lap of nature if one had money. The poet is worried about those untold sufferings and miseries that the people had to face and suffer. The roadside stand is far away from the city. The people who run the stand ask for some city money to feel in hand. With this money, they want progress, they want expansion, they want better lives. They also want to lead that kind of life as promised by the moving pictures. But those promises remain distant dreams. The party in power, the government, that is different to the demands of the rural poor. There is a news that these pitiable people and their belongings are to be bought out. They will be settled in villages where they won't have to think for themselves anymore. The so-called good doers or the greedy people will exploit them and keep on exploiting. These people who pretend to be generous are like wild flesh-eating animals. They are out to grab and swallow them. They will control their lives, earning huge profits for themselves, because their only job is to befool the innocent rural people and mint money. The poet feels the helplessness of those who are running the roadside stand. They are hoping against hope to earn money from their prospective customers. They keep their window open and wait all day for the customers to come. They want to hear the loud noise of brakes and the sound of a stopping car. Thousands of selfish car owners drive past. No one asks about the fate of the farmers or the price they are getting of their produce. Only some stop, using the yard to back and turn around. Another may stop only to ask the way to where it was bound, and another may ask if they sell a gallon of gas, which they have none actually. So, the poet feels greatly relieved if all their pains and troubles are removed at one stroke. And maybe death is far better than the miserable living, because money is required for all humans' progress. But in the countryside, circulation of money is almost negligible. Without money and development, the rural poor remain depressed. They seem to complain of their stepmotherly treatment and injustice. And that is how Robert Frost he feels an unbearable pain at the plight of the rural poor people. So that is how the poem ends, followed by an assignment as usual. These are the very short answer type questions. Once you will revisit the poem, you'll be able to answer them. Along with the assignment, you also need to work on the poetic devices and send me a note about that. So that's it. This is the end of the poem. I wish you a happy learning. Prepare your notes well. In case of any query, any questions, you can post in the comment tab. I'll get back to you earliest possible. So that's the end of the lesson today.